discussion, open topic.
Yeah, open topic weeks are kind of fun because we get a chance to be able to answer questions and discuss some things that are probably relevant to a lot in our community.
Right. Well, you know, we have some things coming up, and hopefully one of these times we'll also get another one. Very soon we'll be going in and having some FFS work done, and I guess you are too. And then also our exercise program and exercise routine, helping people in doing the proper things for exercising, because as you know, putting hormones and stuff on, you put weight on too.
That's right.
After a period of time. At first you start losing, but then after
so
correction, I started putting it on without watching it.
Exercising for sure.
Yeah, so. Alright, well.
And it keeps us in good shape.
I'll speak for myself.
Oh! Hi everyone! Welcome to all our viewers on YouTube, Facebook, and on the GenderBlenders channel. This is week 167 and it's an open topic week.
Alright.
We're going to discuss numerous topics. And we would like to open the discussion up with all of our viewers.
Cool. Me too. We haven't gotten a lot of comments lately.
Yeah, we haven't. It would be nice
people
to
watch them, but they don't comment. And we need to have
Yeah.
comments back. So, yeah.
In transition, we go through many various changes, feelings, and emotions, facing many requirements, needing to be accomplished in order to progress onto further steps towards goals of completion.
That's true.
Many refer to this as the final stages of transition. Unfortunately, I think. Although transition never really ends, so it's kind of a misnomer to call it a final stage.
That's true. That's true. Here in our discussions, we will refer to these steps, the stuff he's referring to, as phases. There are no set patterns of which these phases need to be accomplished, with exceptions of getting the approvals for beginning hormones, replacement, hormone replacement therapy, which is HRT, and for many accomplishing the goals of having gender corrective surgery, or GCS, also known as SRS. Many of you still yet today refer to this as being SRS. But I don't recognize that I was ever reassigned, as opposed to having finally been corrected to the gender that I identify with myself. So I think GCS is a much better word, and a lot of doctors and surgeons and stuff are adopting that now. Some of them are calling it conforming because they really, I don't know, for some reason they just heard GCS, so they turned GCS into their own words. I'm not sure how that happened, but in any case, with all this said, let's move on to our first topic of discussion tonight. We had a viewer last week that brought up an issue which we thought we would start off with as far as one of our topics tonight. We had a viewer, and the viewer submitted, "My therapist is telling me about autogynePHOBIA, or gynephobia, however you want to pronounce that. Is this related to us? Is this an actual condition? I'm very confused about identification. Are either of you two, or either of us, knowledgeable on this? Or have you been, or have known anyone who has ever diagnosed with this?"
That's going to be interesting to answer.
Why he asked further, he goes, "Can you do a video? Because my therapist is really confusing me." Wow. I can totally understand that.
Yeah, being confused by the therapist on this topic, because as it turns out, there's a lot of funny things about that particular
Well, it
topic.
seems like a lot of therapists and psychologists are all gung-ho for somebody to write something else that they can adopt and start using in their practices, and it really, really, really burns a lot of people, because they start telling you that you're this and telling you that you're that and saying, "Oh, well, yeah, you've got this symptom, so therefore you must have this and you must have that." And, therapists are good to help you get along with issues and real problems that you have. But as far as transsexuality and transitioning and stuff, therapists need to go more along with helping you to understand the things that you're going to be going through, and not trying to see whether or not you are or need or don't need or whatever, because that is not their judgment call. That is ours.
That's exactly right.
That is our judgment call. You know, they're taking on the responsibilities, you know, and sharing the responsibilities with doctors for, you know, you having your corrective surgeries and stuff like that that you need. You know, that's totally unwarranted, because these are things that we need to have in order to become ourselves, in order for us to be productive and to become better.
Yeah.
You know, because if a person doesn't accept themselves because they aren't who they should be,
That's right.
who's to say you're diagnosed with having some kind of disorder?
Yeah.
We know that's not true.
Yeah,
So,
and as it turns out, that's one of the things that we'll get into this evening.
Yeah.
Is a lot of this stuff really doesn't make a whole lot of sense, either from a scientific viewpoint
Right.
or from a psychological viewpoint.
right.
Yet the same psychologists are those first ones to pick up on it and start using my term, junk science.
Yeah. Well, let's use autogynePHOBIA, for example. Okay, we know that you know, Mr. Blanchard came out with that when he did his studies in 1981 and 1982. You know, Blanchard's model only recognizes transgender sexual experiences, but the interpretations come out less than scientifically rigorous thinking, because they use value judgments, unwarranted assumptions arising from the methodological flaws and stuff that of one person over the other, and he overinterprets the data.
Yeah.
You know, Blanchard's gave very limited description, describes autogynePHOBIA as a form of transvestism from the transgender box. We know that that's not true, because transsexuals is a precise medical condition from birth. There are supposed questions. I think you said that you'd seen some of them.
Yeah.
Supposed questions that actually have answers and got to a test, which you can find on sites like crosstesters.com. That's right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it is hilarious because it is hypocrisy. First of all, he's trying to reinvent the wheel, and he's basically trying to make a name for himself. So you can go ahead and read that part.
Yeah, that's it's very interesting, because Blanchard, when he went through this thing, ended up being a very non-rigorous experimenter.
Yeah.
So you really can't trust any of the results from that.
Right.
As Stephanie said, if you go through the internet, you'll find that series of questions on a number of different websites. And if you look at it, they'll ask you a question and you have an A, B, C, D kind of a thing, or a yes, no kind of an answer.
Yeah.
And right next to the question it says, yes means, no means. So they're already telegraphing what you're trying to do, rather than you give a really honest
giving a multiple
answer.
choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the hypocrisy of this is in a 1982 publication that Blanchard and I guess Zucker and Freund are attempts to do nothing more than to make something out of nothing.
Yeah.
Putting their names in lights, and then trying to take credit for the submissions that were already well defined by Harry Benjamin.
Yes.
The good Harry Benjamin, in his scientific studies and publications back in 1961.
Yes, when he first came out with that, this was all well defined. It always seems like there's somebody who's trying to get their name out there.
Yeah.
So they come up with something else, and then they turn around and start saying that you have this and that you have that. AutogynePHOBIA doesn't exist. It is much more like science fiction than reality, than science fact. Because there is no science fact. There is no missing link. No one's ever found any missing links.
That's why it's missing.
Yeah.
Otherwise it'll be a found link.
So, in Blanchard's, taxonomy, the non-homosexual biological males with gender identification disorders exhibit, autogynePHILIA and are either attracted to women or both men and women, and or are asexual. Look out, all you heterosexuals out there, because basically he's saying that all of you have autogynePHOBIA.
Yeah.
Homosexual transsexuals, he goes further to state that homosexual transsexuals are attracted exclusively to men, and if they are attracted exclusively to men, then they don't exhibit any
supposed
autogynePHOBIA. I'm sitting there going, now wait a minute, you just got through saying that if you were okay, that you probably had autogynePHOBIA.
Right.
So here he's assuming that a male-female transsexual is male, basically.
First mistake.
And that he's interested in other males, even after they've had their corrective surgery and head into their appropriate gender. So basically, what he's saying is, if you're a homosexual transsexual, that you don't have autogynePHOBIA. It gets very confusing. There were criticisms of Blanchard's theory.
Yeah.
That are generally focused on two different things. One is the use of terms of homosexual and non-homosexual to refer to transsexuals by their sex of birth, and the unsupported data underlying that theory thereof.
Yeah.
So there's no facts. There's no collected facts whatsoever. It was a very rough gathering of certain individuals and so forth who had not been educated, and were dealt with other transsexuals who were still calling themselves transgender and not identifying themselves. Therapists and psychologists using these theories are just trying to find other things to include, like I said, in their arsenal of useless abilities and justifications for their existence. Seriously, that is the truth.
Exactly right.
That is all that it is. There was another person that
Charles Mosser,
that basically was talking about this whole shindig of autogynePHOBIA. Charles Moser.
Well, Charles Moser was he was an application world-renowned research scientist.
Yeah.
Actually applied Blanchard's test in testing.
The analog.
Yeah.
Implied
an analog to this by testing non-homosexual transsexuals versus NEETs, natural-born women, supposedly inflicted with autogynePHOBIA. In other words, what he's asserting is, as it turns out, the number ends up being 93% of all transsexuals and heterosexual men and women were classified
as being autogynePhobics. Yes. So it is such a sham that it is embarrassing to understand and to hear some of my girlfriends and also my boyfriends and stuff who are female to male saying that they have gone to a therapist and their therapist has actually been talking about autogynePHOBIA. I'm sitting there going, one thing that would give you a clue that therapist is no good is if they start talking about autogynePHOBIA.
Yeah.
If they start talking about it's time for you to walk out the door, tell them thank you for their friendship, and go find a better therapist.
Yeah, I think that's true in almost every conceivable instance of that, unless they're giving you that information solely to tell you that here is a theory that doesn't work.
Yeah. Well, it's like them trying to convince you that Yogi Bear was a natural, real bear that actually could talk, and that that we actually did have a roadrunner. Oh, you don't tell me. No, okay.
He wasn't.
So, and now let's go ahead and go into our primary topic that we talked about earlier when we started this video, which is transitioning.
Yeah. When we talked about transitions, we said earlier, other than the binding needs for achieving medical transition and corrective surgery itself, there are areas of transition that can be accomplished without any defining order.
Yes. Yes, that's right. Well, you have the changes, and then you have variables in those changes. Then you have your emotional feelings, which are in variable degrees of intensity.
Yeah.
Then you have the feelings, which are physical variables, of the changes and stuff that occur to you during transitioning.
Yeah, and all those things happen. I know they happen to me. I'm sure they happen to you as well.
Yes. Yes.
You know, from
Well, you know, physically we have changes and stuff like that that we go through, or things like FFS, laser electrolysis, even down to various other corrective surgeries, and right down to the plucking of your eyebrows and stuff like that. To basically make those changes and stuff like that, and help you get a better appearance.
Permanent makeup. There's all kinds of different.
Oh yes, that's right. There is. They do have permanent makeup too, like tattoos or something like that. I'm not sure what it is. So for other for the documents we have what?
Oh gosh, we have lots of documents. Legal name change.
Yes.
Obtaining passports, Social Security.
Oh, of course, yes.
Driver's license, bank records, credit cards.
Yeah.
Gender marker and name change on your birth certificate.
Yeah, very important.
Yeah. Auto and medical and homeowners insurance, deeds to your property.
Yes.
Wills.
Oh yeah, definitely wills.
The list goes on of things that we have to accomplish in various orders.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to change the
Each of
order
these things can be accomplished in various orders. Sometimes because some of the things take longer to accomplish than what others do.
Yeah.
And so you may get one thing accomplished ahead of the other. But there are, I will say that there are good, better, best ways of getting things accomplished, which should be followed, by one and another. But it's not always possible, as many of them, like I said, do take more time to accomplish than what the others do.
Like court order name change, and that varies a little bit from state to state. Like out here, and I think it's different in Ohio, but out here we had to have have that new name, old name, new name published for 3 weeks in a newspaper.
Yes.
And then the next week.
And in Ohio, we just had to have it published one time. 30 days ahead of the actual court date. So we didn't have to have it published for the entire month. It just had to go out one time, and it needed to be certified. And the newspaper sent the courts back a letter saying we published this on this date, so forth. And that was all I needed.
Yeah, so. And then you go through it. So it's a lot of red tape and a lot of that stuff, and so it ends up taking a lot of time.
Yeah. So so it differs from one state to the other. Then we did have someone who also stated, gave us a comment regarding the fact that he had trouble on his job and keeping and working. He came out, but eventually the employer started getting tougher and tougher on him, even though the employer stated that they were accepting him and that everything was fine with his transition. He said that it seemed like his employer worked on, focused on getting him, making him go. He was on his
trying
way
to make
out
him go away.
Of transition. And that is true. Even backwards Ohio, which was backwards only up until about 3 or 4 years ago, tried a lot of that stuff. But employers are coming around. More and more laws are being written because of discrimination. And if you focus on being transsexual, society is more accepting of transsexuals than what they are of transgender people. And the reason for that is because transgenders are people that can vary from one side to the other, or one degree to another, regarding whether they are or are not one gender over the other. And selling that to society is not something I think that society may never be willing to purchase.
I think you're right.
But transsexual is a transsexual at birth. It is a natural way of being. It is how you were born. And a lot of policies are being written there that they cannot discriminate against transsexuals in much the same way as they don't discriminate against midgets or conjoined Siamese twins, or whether you are of any race, creed, and or religion. It is pure discrimination. We had that same thing happen with Trump was trying to do up in Canada with his beauty pageants. Yes. But in any case, that's all I have for today.
I think that's pretty much all I have as well, dear.
Okay.
So, until next week, I'm Steffi.
And my name's Stephanie. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.